Welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green, the show where great dentistry meets great business. Listen in each week as we bring you an inspiring person who will share their story, ideas and business techniques to help you create a practice and a life you love. And now introducing your host, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hello everyone, it's Jesse Green. Welcome back to the Savvy Dentist podcast and to savvydentist.com. It's great to have you here. And today our topic of conversation is the year 2020. What a year it's been. It has been a year that has really thrown a lot of curveballs at us, whether it's been bushfires, global pandemics, some form of protesting, American elections, you name it. There's been something that has been, weird and different compared to other years before. So I believe that in decades to come, we'll reflect on 2020 and we might still be scratching our heads about that. So this year has been one that, as I said, has thrown a lot of curveballs. It's tested a lot of people. It's tested them financially. It's tested them emotionally. For some people, it's tested them physically in ways that they may not have anticipated. Relationships, friendships, all of those things have come under the microscope. And I think it's really important to look at the year and to reflect on it and understand which bits of 2020 have been good and which have not been so good so that we can take the best of 2020 into the year 2021. There is no doubt that phrases like the new normal and pivoting and all those sorts of things have found their way into mainstream business jargon. So I think when it comes to all of this, it's really important to understand that 2020 has been a year that I believe has forced not just innovation and advancement in some areas, but has forced us to rethink and to examine and to ponder and to really question things in ways that we haven't done before. So this episode is really just about sharing some thoughts that I've been thinking about over the last 8-9 months or so, and giving you, I guess, just a perspective on my take on 2020, and I hope it's helpful for you. I hope there's something in here for you that you can take away and take into 2021. But equally, I hope it will encourage you to make a list of your own lessons, to create a log of lessons learned for you in 2021. It would be such a shame to go through a year like this and to not reflect or to take lessons from it, because there have been many, many lessons, and I want to share a few of those with you in a moment. So these lessons are coming in no particular order. I do have some notes in front of me, but I want to say that they're not in any particular order. And so I want to start off with the value of kindness. I've always appreciated kindness, but I have to say this year I've really appreciated it. It's been, I believe, one of the nicest things to come out of the pandemic is to see human kindness on display. Particularly, we saw it during the bushfire season, where we saw people who'd been displaced from their homes being taken in by neighbours and strangers. We saw people volunteering to put their life in harm's way to save other people's property. We saw other people volunteering to support those at the front line. It was just a wonderful coming together of human spirit, human kindness, and understanding that if we can be kind to each other and support one another, we will go further, faster. And what comes to mind when we think about kindness is the sense of community. And I think the bushfires, in a way, galvanized us. In a way, they brought us closer together. We saw the horrific scenes, we saw the devastation, and we saw the beautiful green shoots coming back through the forest, and seeing people support one another in that rebuilding process. And of course, there's a long way to go for many of those people, but human kindness, I believe, is something that we can all do well with, and certainly for me, it's something that I'd like to be better with moving forward. My wife and my kids both know that for me, kindness is the one thing that moves me to tears. I can be really, really hard, or flint hard in the face of adversity, flint hard in the face of what I see as a wrongdoing. But when people are kind, it really does move me, and I think it does for other people too. And I think as a community, there's a lot to be said for just demonstrating kindness, and I think there's a lot in that. And as I said, that community, that sense of coming together, creating connection is a wonderful thing. So the second point around this, of course, is this year has brought plenty of emotional highs and lows. It's been an emotional roller coaster, right? We got through the fires, almost, and then there was a global pandemic, and we saw, borders being closed. We saw businesses being shut. We saw people worried about their livelihoods. We saw queues outside Centrelink, and we were wondering what's going to happen. How's this going to be? And there were a lot of emotions such as fear, anxiety, worry, all of those things, creating a sense of uncertainty. And of course, when emotions are high, intelligence can be low. When emotions are high, it impedes our ability to make great decisions. And so I wanted to share a few thoughts around that for you, because I think part of our ability to forge a great path in 2021 is the ability to remain rational, the ability to think clearly, and to make quality decisions. And so that's sometimes hard if you're going through a period of emotional stress. We don't always see things as clearly as we might in other circumstances. So to help with that, I think it's really good to have a sounding board or a couple of people who can act as sounding boards. And this ties back to the community piece as well, because if we're part of a community, we can talk to people who might have an appreciation of what we're experiencing, but may not be as emotionally involved with that. So I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that you can use as sounding boards. Now, that might be a community such as a church group. It might be a community such as, your neighborhood group. It might be a community such as a coaching community. But having those people to run ideas past and to bounce things from is going to be really, really important. And of course, it reminded me of the poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. And the poem begins with, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. I'm not going to read the whole poem, but of course that poem really is about having confidence in yourself and becoming, in this case, becoming a man. Now, of course, he's using that in a non-gender specific, I hope, but whatever it means is what it means. But I guess the point in all of this is it's about growing up. It's about taking that responsibility. It's about being calm in the face of adversity, because it's not always easy. But when it's not easy and you are going through emotional things, it's about putting in place some guardrails so that you make good decisions. It doesn't allow you to go off the road and into the bushes. So I would say having a sounding board, being part of a community are great guardrails to make sure that your decision making remains intact throughout 2021. Following on from that, I'd also like to say that things are rarely as bad or as good as newspapers say they are. It's so easy to get caught up in the newspaper hype, the headlines, but we've got to remember that their job is to sell newspapers. Their job is to write headlines that cause people to feel an emotion, because if they don't do that, then no one buys their newspaper. And of course, we have seen it time and time again. When you've got a bit of grey hair like I do, you've been through a few things in your life, such as, in my case, the recession of the 1990s. I went through the global financial crisis, the dot-com boom, the Asian financial crisis. All of these things were, written up as disasters. And of course, they weren't great. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but they weren't as bad as the papers had us believe. So I think it's really, really important to look for the evidence of what's going on. And of course, fear is an acronym that stands for false evidence appearing real. I'm not saying be cavalier. I'm not saying be reckless. I am saying make sure that you understand that things are never as good or as bad as the newspapers say they are, because then you can manage your own emotional state and remain clear-headed with your decision. And of course, it does take courage to walk your own path. It does take courage to swim against the tide. And when the whole pandemic was happening, the big message we were trying to put out was just to remain calm, because things have a funny way of working out. And I have great faith in things working out. It doesn't always work out the way you think they're going to work out, but one of my lessons that I like to share with you is that time and again, things work out. So on that note, what keeps people emotionally calm along the way from a financial point of view is the concept of a rainy day bank account. A rainy day bank account is where you put money aside for a rainy day. It means you save a portion of your income and you put it aside into a liquid asset, that you can draw on if you need to. Hopefully something that's, interest bearing or growing or doing or whatever. Nothing speculative, but it's there to allow you to sleep at night. And of course, sometimes it rains, and with the pandemic, when the revenue was turned off, all of a sudden we went to level 3 restrictions. Those people who had built a rainy day bank account, had been preparing for that winter, slept very comfortably. They knew that come what may, they had it covered. They had 3, 6, 9, 12 months of expenses stashed away, knowing that this thing could go for a year and they'd be okay. And so it's really important that you build your financial rainy day bank account, or what I call a financial moat. And a financial moat is, the moat around your castle so that no one can hurt you. You'll need to decide how wide your moat is, how deep your moat is, whether you want to put a few crocodiles in your moat, whatever it is. But ultimately, it's about understanding how much money you want to put aside in your rainy day bank account. And look, I've been living with the concept of a rainy day bank account now for 25 years. And it's been the thing that has allowed me to sleep at night for many, many years now, knowing that if something goes wrong, then we're going to be okay and that we've got this. So please put together a rainy day bank account. My suggestion is a minimum of 3 months of expenses, personal and business. My preference is more than that. In my case, I've got about 15 months or so of that. So maybe a bit more, maybe 16, 17 months. But in any case, build one for yourself, and I think it's a really good idea. I would also say that when the sun is shining, make hay. And so when the good times are on, make sure you capitalize on that. Don't be complacent. We came out of the COVID lockdown to a period of business, and we've got to be able to convert that busyness into long-term sustainable business growth. It's not just, trying to, make as much money as you can, although of course you want to bank some money. I've got no problem with that. It's about taking that short-term busyness and turning that into long-term success. Because what we don't want is a sugar hit and then you have a sugar low. We've got to make sure that we, really, really capitalize on the opportunities as they present themselves. So just moving away from that theme for a little while, I think I've been reflecting on people and human nature. And I think what I'd like to just talk about there, again in no particular order, is we've spoken about kindness, and I've come to understand that most people are good most of the time. I really believe that, the truly bad people in the world are very few and far between. I really have come to understand that most people are good, and sometimes people make mistakes. And, we make mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm sure you do too, because we're human, and to be human is to err. And so one of the things that I think is really important as we move forward is to practice forgiveness. And forgiveness is something that I think comes from trying to understand other people and their perspective. Sometimes we get caught up in our own view of the world. Sometimes we get caught up in what we think is right. Sometimes we get caught up, dare I say, in a bit of self-righteousness. I certainly know that I can get caught up in that. And sometimes it's okay to just go, maybe I need to look at this from another person's perspective. I might not end up agreeing with them. I might not want to adopt that perspective, but at least if I'm trying to understand, I've got a really good chance of finding that place of forgiveness. And of course, when it comes to forgiveness, the person who really benefits most of all is you. And it's about letting go of past hurts, letting go of past injustices, and finding a way forward that's peaceful and a way forward that allows you to focus on a future that's bright and rosy rather than dragging your baggage with you. So I would say that for me, learning to forgive has been something that I've had to work hard on, and something that I think is going to provide some great value moving forward to 2021. Most people are good most of the time. I would say when it comes to mistakes, it's also really important to understand, particularly during periods of 2020, that many people have had to make decisions with incomplete information. And that means that it's inevitable that we're going to make mistakes and others will make mistakes too. So again, it's not just about forgiving other people, it's about forgiving ourselves. It's about being kind to ourselves. It's about understanding that when we have incomplete information, we have to play the laws of probability. It's not about the laws of possibility, it's about the laws of probability. What is the most likely outcome based on the information I have at hand? And then we have to be able to make that decision and be okay with the fact that we either get it right or we don't. And sometimes we get it right and sometimes we get it wrong. And again, it comes back to that forgiveness of ourselves and of others. So, of course, that leads to, risk mitigation and preparation. And of course, the best way to navigate or deal with a crisis is by preparing ahead of time. And I would encourage every single person here who owns a business, or even if you don't own a business, perhaps you're an associate somewhere, then it's really important to identify where the risk is in your life or in your business. In your business, it's often key person risk. It could be cash flow risk. It could be leasehold risk. It could be any type of risk. It's really important to understand that the best way to manage that crisis is to be as prepared for it as you can up front. And part of that risk mitigation leads to the creation of what my friend Tyson calls a disaster file. And a disaster file is trying to think of all the possible things that could go wrong and then having a plan in place for them. What happens if the practice burns down? This is what I'm going to do. What happens if we get a flood? This is what I'm going to do. What happens if we get malware on our computers? This is what I'm going to do. And then, of course, trying to prevent those things as part of the risk mitigation as well. So again, think of all those scenarios, mitigate the risks that you can, so you can, minimize the likelihood of it occurring. You can minimize the cost if it does occur, but equally, you've got a plan in place should it occur. And I think if you've done those things, then you can feel confident that no matter what gets thrown at you, no matter what happens, whether it's another pandemic, whether it's something different, you're going to be okay. So I think it's going to be really, really important. I would say to you around that as well is that all progress begins with telling the truth. Especially to ourselves, we've got to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror, look at our business under the microscope, and really understand what's working and what's not. It's easy to fall in love with our business because, mothers love their babies, and it's important to understand that we are not detached from our business. We can be very emotional about our business, and we need to be able to have a degree of objectivity and tell the truth to ourselves about ourselves and the business. And so we've got to know ourselves, know our business, and really that's going to be the beginning point of progress. So as you go through this exercise, ask yourself, where did I go well this year? Where did I not go well? Was I one of those business owners that managed the crisis well? Or did I, run for the hills and shut up shop and kind of hide under the bed? And I'm not saying that to criticize you. If you did that, that's okay. That's fine. We understand that. But what might you take from that experience, and what might you do differently? So I think in all of this, I would like to probably finish by saying that there's a few things about human-to-human interaction. We want to find a way to be able to positively influence people. We want to be able to make their experience with us better so that they leave that interaction better for having interacted with us. And I think that we always want to make sure that whomever we deal with, whether it's our patients, our team, our significant others, strangers on the streets, the people in the shops, whoever it is, that we do one little thing to try and make that person's day, to leave them feeling better for their interaction with us. And I think if we can all practice that, then 2020 is guaranteed to be a much better year. So there's some of my reflections on 2020 and some of the things that I hope are worth taking through to 2021. There'll be no doubt many more lessons that you can capture from your own experience, and I've certainly got another listed 10 miles long, but it probably makes for a very long podcast. I wanted to share those ones with you today. I hope they're really helpful for you. I'd implore you to create a log of lessons learned, to look back and to learn. It would be a shame to have gone through this year without taking something from it. So please, I'm going to ask you to do one last little bit of work for the year. It's like when you're at the PT at the gym and you've done your 10 reps of push-ups, whatever it is, and the PT wants you to do those extra 2 reps. I'm going to be asking you to do the extra 2 reps right now, and that is to reflect on 2020. Take the lessons from it, because it's going to be a great teacher for you. It's going to really teach you a lot about how you show up, how you can show up, and what the potential is for you and your business. I think there's such tremendous opportunity in 2021, but the way to capture that opportunity is to be truthful with ourselves about 2020 and what we can take from it. So again, I hope you find that episode useful. I hope you've got some notes there, and I'm looking forward to hearing what your lessons have been from 2020. I'd love to hear from you. Do let me know what you've taken from 2020 or indeed from this episode. And I can't wait to see you in 2021, to be of service to you in 2021. So take good care. Have a wonderful Christmas. Enjoy the new year. And I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green. For more free tools and resources, join the free Facebook group. Visit drjessegreen.com/Facebook. And for more episodes, visit drjessegreen.com/savvydentist.